Yeah. Welcome back to Pittsburgh, dude.
Thanks, buddy.
Welcome to the Skullet Podcast.
Yeah, I love it. This is like, sometimes when people tell you to come and do a podcast at their home, you're like, oh, God, what is this going to be? But this is, not only is it a real home, which I commend you so much on, that you're a comic that has a real home, you know? Also that this is a real place to record a podcast.
Yeah.
Like you have this set up beautifully like a studio. And so two things surprising is that it's a real studio and it's a real house. Yeah. I don't know which is better, to be honest.
To have a real studio or a real house or both?
I don't know which one impresses me more, I guess. But
well, this is not my home. This is Tim's. It's Tim's.
He's dead.
He's dead, right?
Well, by the time this episode airs, from what I hear, he'll be dead.
That's true.
So I'm manifesting that this is your home now, you know?
I'm curious how squatters' rights work when the homeowner is dead from COVID, you know?
Oh, I think that's the best. Then you go, people come over, they go, we haven't heard from the tenant or whatever, the owner. You go, I'm sick. Yeah. I have a cough.
Yeah.
He died from COVID. He's still here. I can't. You tell them that you have a fever. Also, you need help getting him out of here. You know, people, like the gas company comes. They're like, "Do you know this hasn't?" They're like, also, you kind of look like a strong dude. Would you mind helping me? The old owner is dead. In there. You know what I mean? I think you're honestly set up for, as long as, I hate to be so morbid, but as long as Tim passes what I hope is gracefully and peacefully to the other side, you're kind of set up for success here.
Did you ever see Mad Men?
Yeah.
You know how John Hamm's character he just kind of takes over and the other guy just explodes. He's in a war and he just kind of just takes his dog tags. Tim, our producer, we miss him today, but he was in the Navy. I just put his dog tags on and then I am Tim Scherer after that. Right.
Yeah, and we miss him also because he's in heaven.
He's in heaven, yeah, exactly.
At this point.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. But the opposite of R.I.P. Welcome to the planet, or at least the Skullet planet. Our amazing guest, Collin Chamberlin. Give it up for Collin, everybody.
Thank you. That was overwhelming. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much. It's great to come and do this pod and hang out.
Yeah, man. So this is the Skullet Podcast. I think the last time we saw each other, I probably had a shaved head.
Yes.
And I've just been letting it go.
I didn't know if it was gonna come up naturally or what, but I did notice.
Yeah.
That there's been a transition. There's been a changing of the guard.
Exactly.
As they say, and this is something you're doing just for yourself.
I'm doing it for the world, really, but from the self as well. You know,
right,
I saw a movie where Ed Harris had a skullet, and I'm like, that's a look that I don't see very often.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't see it often.
It's true, yeah.
But I appreciate that you said I'm doing it for the world. You know, heavy is the head that wears the skullet.
That's exactly right. Yeah, man.
That you felt there was a calling from a greater power of the universe to do this. And you said, I don't care what it does to me.
No.
Kind of like the Dark Knight. You know?
I am kind of like, exactly, man. I've got a little butler named Tim whose home I live in, but yeah, no, it's like I work hard and I at night is when it's like I'm Ronnie Fleming, but am I actually really just the Skullet?
Right. Know? Right.
Yeah.
Are you just the Skullet?
Yeah.
Where does Ronnie stop and the Skullet begin?
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's what the Skullet podcast is all about. It's really asking that question to everybody.
I think this is going to make for also really good footage in 5 to 10 years from now when they go, did you hear about Ronnie? And I go, Ronnie Fleming? And they go, well, that's not what he goes by. And I go, what happened? And they go, he just started killing people and shaving their head. Like his signature was he shaved them into a skullet when they found, and I go, roll that clip. This is either going to be the origin story of a hero or a villain. I think.
And here's the thing: there's gonna be footage of you with me. It's kind of like when they see like all this, like there's photos of like celebrities with like Jeffrey Epstein or something, or P. Diddy. At this point, keeping it current. You're implicated, I guess.
I
am
this implicated. Yeah. No, because I have yet to tell you to not do it.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I have yet to voice any sort of like, hey, maybe hold back on the, Skullet. Maybe work your way up to a Skullet. Don't let it become your whole identity. I have not said that yet.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm supporting this journey.
Right.
Just to see what happens. Shake it up.
Yeah.
Shake things up here.
Well, see, I think most people that have the Skullet, they were never completely bald at one point. Like they were bald. I think they were just probably had like long hair and they were just in denial for a long time, or they just would never want to do, take the shears off, or on.
Yeah, that's a great point. You don't see a lot of people go from bald back to some form of hair that isn't plugs or a toupee. You know what I mean? Which, if anything, what you're doing is far more honorable because you're using what you got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not trying to, because it's always people, you see these people with shaved heads or thin hair, and then like they go away for a couple months and then they come back and they just have a full head of hair.
Yeah.
And you're like, are we just going to pretend that this is, like I don't notice this? You're just going to talk to me like you didn't have that, now you have it. You're saying this is it.
Yeah.
There's no GMOs. There's no processed foods here. This is organic Skullet.
All natural, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, I am using rosemary. It's a little
really?
spray,
Okay.
Some performance enhancing, vitamins.
But that's natural spray. It's natural stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's you have a free ranged head of hair.
Thank you.
Which is somebody that has seen other bald men. It can't be said about them all.
That's true. That's true. There's very few that are as brave as I am.
I mean, I don't know if you're talking me into it or if I'm just sort of already in and I really don't need convincing, but I'm in.
Thanks, man.
I'm really in on this.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll use that clip.
Yeah, to
my Skullet.
journey,
Thank you, bro.
Yeah,
Thank you, man. Well, speaking of journey, let's transition this way, huh?
Yeah, perfect. Tim will have some work to do.
Yeah, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, from his hospital bed.
His doctor, his hospice nurse has a lot of work to do.
He's like, "Do you have a USB-C charger?" She's like, "Sir, you are passing to the other." He's like, "Sorry, I just my SSD is full." We could talk about a journey. Let's talk about a journey.
Well, I guess I moved from New York to Pittsburgh, and you moved from Pittsburgh to New York. So I was kind of curious, like, how's it been for you, man? Because I think we kind of moved exactly at the same time.
Yeah, two ships passing, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed it. I mean,
you live in Astoria?
I live in Astoria, which I think most comics naturally gravitate to because it's so familiar. I think, especially to a place like Pittsburgh. I mean, you can attest to it. You're in Lawrenceville. I feel like it's very similar to a Bloomfield, a Lawrenceville, sort of a strip district area where it's, tightly packed sort of homes, but not all apartments, not all high rises. That's what I love. I love that it's not high rises. I love being in New York, but I do hate the feel of Manhattan,
Sure.
Because to me, it feels very like suffocating. And I like the idea of being 20 some minutes from the city, but not being in the city. Mm-hmm. Also, it's so much cheaper. I like that there's like a park and I'm also a creature of habit where when I moved to New York, I moved with two other comics, one also from Pittsburgh.
Ray? Was it Ray?
Yeah, Ray Zawadney. So we moved into an apartment together, me, him, and another comic from Buffalo. So once we got there, we spent it was actually first 6 months because the next 6 months was COVID. We moved September 2019.
Oh, good timing.
And it was like, everybody was like, just give it a few months, and see. And, it's hard, that transition, The credits don't really transfer. You're restarting basically. And I distinctly remember flying. I went to Los Angeles for like 10 days for a festival, and then I did shows at like real clubs, and I was flying in to LaGuardia at the end of February, and I'm like, this is it. I really feel like I'm coming to a place. I'm coming home, to New York. And then about a week later, I flew to Pittsburgh for a show and couldn't get back to New York because it was, I forget what the date everything shut down was. It was like March 16th or something like that. Whatever it was. I had a show on the 15th, and I was joking about it on stage like, oh, it's going to get crazy. It's going to get weird. And then the next day, I was stuck with a suitcase in Pittsburgh. And I stayed in Pittsburgh for a little while and was like just buying clothes online because I couldn't, like I had nothing, what I mean? I had nothing with me. I had a weekend's worth of stuff because I had some shows. So yeah, it was weird because you like, then that happens. But because I started in Astoria, I feel like I know where everything is now. And I have like the things that I like to do there. I don't want to leave. Like I refuse to. If I leave Astoria, I'm going to leave. I would have to leave all of New York City because I don't want to go learn another neighborhood, Totally,
man. I totally relate to that. But also I moved so much when I was in New York. Yeah. I was just I was in Brooklyn Heights, and then I was in Bushwick, and then I was in Bed-Stuy, then I was in Red Hook, then I was in Ridgewood. So I kept moving. I kept moving a lot. Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, were these like room to rooms or new leases because that's expensive? That's gotta be expensive.
It was mostly room to room.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps a little bit. Because I don't want to brag, but I have moved almost, this past year was the last year I didn't move since moving to New York. I moved every year.
Oh my God.
That I lived in New York.
Yeah.
Which for those of you watching at home, is not a cost-effective way to live in New York City. And this isn't like, oh, I'm going to move. This is like moving, signing a lease, putting a security deposit down, and then having to go and find a new apartment the next year.
You get new furniture and stuff? You get like heavy are you a heavy furniture guy? You got like friends that are helping to move?
I had friends.
You hiring people?
Friends that helped. So the first move was in my first apartment. My dad helped me.
Right.
He drove up and helped me. My second move was into an apartment that I had with a girl I was dating. I had friends, and we had to move stuff from Pittsburgh. She was moving from Pittsburgh to New York.
Okay, yeah.
So we had friends help us. I moved out of that apartment into an apartment by myself. We broke up, so I moved to an apartment by myself. I had friends help me move out of that apartment.
Yeah.
And then that is where I really purged. And I go, I am going to live as minimally as possible.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because I know this wasn't like going to be a forever thing.
Yeah.
And I did not dude, I literally, there was stuff when I moved out of my past apartment into my new apartment with my now girlfriend. I didn't have stuff unpacked by the time I had moved. Like I just left stuff in boxes because I was like, I don't know what's next, but I know this. I don't want to repack some of this stuff,
I would have girlfriends just be like, why do you have any things framed?
Yeah.
You've been here for years. And I'm like, I don't know. I might be gone tomorrow.
Right. 100%. Yeah. I like to, there is a benefit of living in New York kind of off the grid. If you could do it, if you can get into a place that's like a handshake deal lease and you sort of come and go, you don't get a lot of like lease renewals. You know what I mean? You just sort of stay until there's a problem. That's a good way to do it because I liked it. Like nobody can really track me a little bit, So yeah, it's I was the same way. I had pictures not in frames. I had like one like I bought this thing on Amazon that like held my clothes, but it didn't have any, like it was just open. Like so my clothes were just out and like I remember somebody was like, "Don't you want to get like a dresser?" And I'm like, "Here's the beauty about this. All these clothes can go into a bag and this wire rack thing can fold up and be thrown out." a dresser has to be carried or built or something, you know what I mean, and then carried out of here. That is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to like, if we have to leave town tomorrow, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I joke about it on stage, but like when I moved in with my girlfriend, it looked like I was fired from like an insurance agency. Like I had a box and like some notebooks, and some cutlery, and you know, I was like, my couch is terrible. My chairs are not comfortable. My table's broken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think we took like 2 things from my apartment, and we use everything else. I moved in basically to like a staged. You know when you like they show you pictures of apartments, there's furniture there. You know, I moved into a staged apartment essentially because it was all her stuff, and I just showed up. You know, which is a great way to do it. Also,
you just need a little corner for your things, and that's it.
100%.
Yeah.
I have a corner. I have a corner with a desk that has everything that I own near it.
Yeah.
Computer, 3 little file cabinets of every important document and pay stuff, you know, whatever, like checks from shows, whatever. Joke notebooks, and then that's it. And then I have clothes in a closet. And that's my imprint on
that's
the
nice,
apartment.
man. Yeah. Simplified, dude. It's great.
You got to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because you just gotta be mobile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't know what's gonna happen.
Dude, it's like you've seen the movie Heat, you know?
You
never know when the heat's around the corner, right?
Yeah,
He's gotta go. Exactly.
You gotta be ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's most comics I think would agree with that. It's a lot like the movie Heat.
Yeah,
you
for sure.
Never know when you gotta be able to get the go bag and get out of town.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a long-winded answer to say I like living in Astoria. I love Astoria, and New York has been fun. It's been good to me. And you know, it's such a grind. It's such a awful grind sometimes, but you do get a lot of benefits. You know.
I mean, from the outside looking in, man, it seems like you're doing pretty well, dude. Like, you just said you had a great Don't Tell set.
Thank you.
You're opening on the road a lot, right?
Yeah.
You're doing some headlining sets as well, man.
I've been very, you know, it's been a good year. This has been a really good year. I did a Don't Tell. I did a Dry Bar. They all came out within a calendar year. And you know, it's like, it's so different. I feel like from the people that I watched, because you could do like 2 things and then you'd be like, I'm good. You know, you do like one of the Comedy Central half hours, a late night, something like that, and you're kind of on your way. Now you have to do like 10 to 12 shorter, smaller things. You know what I mean? You need like a really good Don't Tell. You need like, you know, a good appearance on like a podcast or 2. You need a lot of, so like, I feel like comics, we just sort of collect these comedy infinity stones, you know, to put into the gauntlet and then be like, all right, now we're here. Snap your fingers and let me do something now. So yeah, it's been a good year. I've been very lucky to work with great comics on the road. I work with Jessica Kirson a lot, and Ryan Hamilton, and it's like such a pleasure to work with 2 people whose audiences, you know, I took this for granted. I didn't really know this. Like when I started in Pittsburgh, I worked the Improv. In the Improv, we get a whole variety of comics. But the one that was there a lot was like you've seen him on this show, or you know him from this movie, or from whatever. Like, I feel like I didn't see a ton of pure stand-up comics at the Improv when I was starting. You know, or if you did, their shows were really small, you know. But I've been so fortunate to work with like a guy like Ryan and somebody like Jessica, who aren't in movies, shows, or they aren't known from some big podcast that isn't about comedy. So their fans are pure comedy fans. And let me tell you, it makes a huge difference when you get on stage. The difference between opening for a Ryan Hamilton or a Jessica, whose audience is there to see stand-up because they love their stand-up, versus someone who's like, I cannot wait to see the goofy uncle from the show.
Right.
Because they are not ready for comedy. they don't know it. They don't know stand-up. They just know television or a movie. So they're like, let's sit and watch. And then when an opener comes out, they're really confused. They're like, I thought we were going to see the guy that did the crazy dance in the movie. And you're like, well, there's an order to this. And they don't realize that. But Jessica and Ryan, their fans are comedy fans. They're trained to watch comedy and they understand it. There's an opener, maybe there's two openers, whatever it is, and they're in for it, which is really, it makes my job so much easier. Are
their fans different? Like, I guess how they compare, because Ryan is clean, right? Mm-hmm. He's clean, and then Jessica's not clean, right?
No, they are. So they're very different. Ryan's show, is a clean show, and I'm clean, so it's works that way. So that's, his fans expect to see a clean show. Jessica's fans are there to see her, work the crowd and play on stage, and she's obviously dirtier. So her fans are just more, they're ready for that. You know what I mean? So they're different in that sense because they know what they're expecting. It's not a problem for me because, like, I am of the philosophy that, like, I'm a cleaner comic because of that. I can play to a dirtier crowd and not really get noticed. I can't do the opposite for Ryan's show. Like, I can't go on Ryan's shows and do a set that would only work for, like, a dirtier audience.
Yeah.
So it's nice for me because I just get two really good audiences, and they're both so good and gracious to their openers in the sense of, like, they set the opener up for success. You know what I mean? They give you enough time to get your legs, because dude, there's nothing worse than being like, hey, go do 7 minutes to open the show. And you're like, so let me just get this straight. 7 minutes, people are still being sat. I'll do 2 minutes that's just to the wind because nobody's really paying attention.
Yeah.
By the time they get to know me, I only have 5 minutes left. Yeah. And then I got to land this plane on, what are we really talking about? We're talking about, they're listening to me for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? After we subtract all these other things. So they give you more, they understand that. So they give you more time. They hold the show, make sure people are sat there. They're not big about, like, oh, we got to get out of here. And both of them like to do a lot of time, but they just know that their audience is there for it. So they'll have a longer show. They don't care, and the one thing that Ryan does, which is so huge, and it's something I've blatantly taken from him and I've told him, like, this is so helpful that if I have the opportunity to do this, I'll do it. But, like, when Ryan does a theater, usually it's a voice of God, turn off your phones, thank you for coming, your first comedian who you don't care about, whatever.
Right.
And the audience doesn't really know, like, that the show has started because they're trying to, like, catch up. I always feel like an audience is like a couple seconds on delay, until they're really into the show. So, you go out there and, like I said, you're kind of burning those first couple minutes. Ryan does this great thing where he'll wait till the lights come down. He gets on the voice of God and he goes, hey, everybody, it's Ryan. And then they clap. And he's like, it's great to be here wherever. He tells a little joke from off stage, mind you. Tells a little joke about wherever we are. And he's like, we're going to have so much fun. I'm so excited to be here. I brought a friend with me. He's so funny. He's going to start the show for us. But, like, and it knocks down all of that legwork up front. You know what I mean? So you go out and you almost have, like, a feature set. Like, it's almost like he kind of hosted the show. You still bring him on, but it's crazy what a difference it makes.
Totally.
It's all these little things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that just make for such a better show. For me, and I do believe for the whole show.
For sure.
Because then the crowd is ready to go for him too. So it's what a, like, treat though. Two people, like, that are just ideal for doing stand-up comedy. Two audiences. So it's awesome.
Well, I think also the fact that you are clean does make you, like, an ideal opener in a lot of ways because you can do whatever you want. Like, you can, also you're a very good comic as well, obviously, but it's like, it's just Yeah, just like for Jessica, she can just kind of tear off the Band-Aid of like, okay, we'll talk about, whatever dirty things, so it's like, if you're talking about like, pussy farts or whatever right before,
100%. And I, I don't do a lot of crowd work.
Right.
Because I was sort of under the school of like, you let that stuff for the headliner. You leave it for them because like there may be a thing where they have to go into the crowd. They have to win the crowd back if something happens or there's a heckle, whatever. So unless I am forced to do it, like really obvious stuff, I try to avoid that. Dirty stuff, I always thought like, well, unless I've had a few people be like, can you swear a little bit actually to see how to gauge it?
Oh,
almost.
Interesting. Yeah.
But which is not a problem, but it's like, for the most part, I feel like let them crack that open. That's their thing. One, it's also, it's their thing. But the other thing is like, dude, there's nothing more awkward, I feel like, for an audience that isn't, you go to, it's different in a theater, I guess, because you really have to be there for that show. At a club, like, you do get the people of like, we got tickets online, we don't know, or we come here regularly, we don't know who this person is, or, you get a free ticket, you get a package, whatever it is. And then for an opener to come out and be like super filthy is like, it's shocking sometimes to people. So they're like, is this how it's going to be? You know what I mean? Like, I've had that where I've had people come out and be super dirty up front. Yeah. And I'm like, this is, people are not necessarily there to see me. So they don't know what to expect. So like, they are just, this is the first person they met and they're talking about, really filthy stuff, which is fine if you could do it well. But in the first 7 minutes of a show, it's like people were eating nachos. People were eating, like cheesesteak empanadas and chicken fingers. And like, it looks like somebody was released from prison and put on stage. Yeah. They're like, you can see them like this, they're shocked. So it is nice because, and I do think it helps that like I can kind of go into most situations. I feel like, as an opener, being clean. I feel like it's made me, and this is not to like, I don't think this is braggadocious. I hope it doesn't sound like it, but I do feel a little bit like a Swiss Army knife of like a comic because like I have been, and especially coming up in a place like Pittsburgh, you are in so many different situations for stand up. I mean, you can attest to this with the Don't Tell. I mean, my God, you could do a show for 100 people in a room that looks like a showroom, or you could do a show for 20 people in a tanning salon that's just as good. But you have to know how to play to different rooms, different styles and stuff. So I think because of that, the more adaptable that you can be, the more success you can have, especially when you're trying to build your career. Right. Of course, if people are there to see you and are paying to see you do a specific thing, that's a different story. Right. Do whatever you want. But when you're working on trying to establish yourself, I think like being flexible and being adaptable with your act and how you can, how you perform and being easy to work with is huge. Totally. I mean, I've worked with so many dirty comics because I don't step on their toes. Right. And then I work with clean comics because I'm not going to upset the show for them. Yeah. So it's been very beneficial to me, at least.
Well, I envy it. I'm asked to do clean, a lot of shows like coming up too. And I'm like, I can do it. Yeah. It's not necessarily like, it's like, I got to think about what I'm doing a lot more than I would normally. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like, maybe like we have like newer comics who are like, figuring out how to write. And I know it's like, once you start writing clean, especially maybe early on, it's probably it's easier to continue, but I'm also kind of curious if it's like innate, like you were always going to do. If a clean comic is always going to be a clean comic or something.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess I'm kind of curious, like how you started. Was that like it seems like it was a conscious decision the whole way.
Yeah, it kind of was, and honestly, it was bred out of like a thing of, I didn't want to feel embarrassed, kind of what I said, like. I mean, I was very lucky when I started that, like, my family was supportive of my pursuit in this, to the point where like my dad would come to open mics with me. Like when I first started, so a little backstory is I didn't know anything about stand-up comedy when I was interested in it. There was a club in Robinson Township called Latitude 40, which then became Latitude 360, which was rest in peace, but thank God it's gone kind of club. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they would bring in like C-level headliners, you know, and that's not a knock on them, but like it's just they were getting, you know, they were smaller than an Improv or a Funny Bone, but they were still getting really good comics. They were just lesser status. So my dad used to do stand-up comedy before I was born. He was like a house MC at the Funny Bone when it was down in Station Square. He started to get some work there as an MC. They asked him because he was working on some other stuff and he had a podcast and he was becoming a bit of a personality, for lack of a better term, in Pittsburgh. So the guy that was booking it was like, "Can you come down and basically host in a room that's very much like a Dave and Buster's, you know?" So he would do it. He would go down and he would host. And I would go with him. And I would watch, and I was like totally enamored by, like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, these comics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember seeing like, I don't know if you know Billy Elmer, who was he was out in LA for a long time, but he's a Pittsburgh born and bred guy. I remember seeing him. I remember seeing Dennis Regan, Brian Regan's brother. I think it was it Lou Ramey I saw from Last Comic Standing, and just being like, oh my God. To this day, one of the funniest people I ever saw was at this club, Rocky Laporte. I don't know if people know who Rocky Laporte is. He is one of the purest forms of stand-up comedy that can exist.
Yeah.
He's so funny. And I saw him there, and I just couldn't believe this was like happening. So I like asked my dad, like, how do people do this? You know what I mean? Like, and there was a class at the Arcade Theater. I took the class. He took it with me, and I figured it was like painting. You want to learn how to paint, you take a class on painting.
Yeah.
You want to learn guitar, you go in a guitar instructor. I just thought it was like another form of teachable art. It's not. But that's what I thought, you know. But I was around my family a lot when I started.
Yeah.
They came to shows. He would show me where open mics were because he knew some older comics that were kind of in the scene. And I just didn't want to, like, I am so filled with like guilt and like I hate being uncomfortable, especially around my family. So I just never said anything that I thought would make my parents uncomfortable if they came to a show. Because I was always uncomfortable watching other people knowing they were in the audience, you know? And it's so lame, I guess, but it's like, that was the reason behind it. So then you start to just naturally write clean. And then you see, like, you know, I kind of idolized clean comics. You know what I mean? They were like, I really loved Gaffigan and Brian Regan and stuff. And I loved other comics too, but those people I really enjoyed. And then you start getting work because you're a clean comic. Of
course, yeah.
Which comes way too early in your career because you don't really deserve it, nor are you ready for it. But you are sometimes the only person who can do the job.
Yeah.
So I was doing shows 2 years into stand-up. I'm doing like 25, 30-minute spots at fundraisers, churches, fire halls, because they want a PG or G show. And I'm just being given all this time. So then I'm like, well, I'll never not. You know what I mean? This is amazing. Of course, yeah. I'm working so much and I'm getting all the stage time. So then, like, you just develop it. And then it becomes just a thing now where it's like, it's just sort of my nature on stage. And it's also like, I enjoy the challenge. Like, I enjoy the idea of like, how do you, and it's not necessarily like just a lack of cursing, but it's just like, how do you make like the process of like microwaving food funny? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. My mind sort of works in take a premise and exhaust every angle of it. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah, it just sort of started out of a place of I didn't want to say anything uncomfortable, and then it grows into this thing of like, this is my style. I like this. I want to craft this. And I will say, from a financial aspect, if you can have a clean 25, 35 minutes, you can really help yourself as a comic to take on some other gigs that you might not have had the opportunity to, that fund the more important gigs for less money. You know?
Yeah.
There are a lot of gigs that you have to do in stand-up comedy where you do not make money, but you have to go and do it to establish yourself in a club. You put yourself up. I've flown to clubs to make $500 featuring on a weekend in a new club that I want to make an impression on, spending $600 to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like, so you, but if you can then get a couple of these little like corporate things, and you know, these fundraiser shows that are a little bit better money, you go, well, I'll go and sort of do this soul crushing thing for maybe $1,000 or whatever the number is, knowing that that'll help me get to Tampa, Omaha, Cleveland, you know, whatever the place. I think it can really be a good tool that comics should have if they can do it, you know? So yeah, that's sort of, that was the progression.
So you got a dirty comic, right? Or got a comic who's got some, how would you be like, here's how you, if they want to work, how can I work? How can I write cleaner, I guess?
Well, I would say like, because people, it's actually a great question, because I have trouble with this sometimes where, do you know Steve Rogers?
Mm-hmm.
So we just did a show together in Stamford, and we're both clean. And when the show's billed as a clean show, and the opener was like, I'm a little nervous about what to say. Can I run, like I have a 15-minute set, can I run it past you?
Yeah.
So we're like, no cursing, not a lot of sex stuff, you know, and we sort of go through this list. And we're like, oh, but some of it's subjective because you can, you know, it's there's certain words that you could say that are technically like a curse word, but it's like, it's such a throwaway that people don't even notice it. You know what I mean? Like, so you start going through and you're like, wow, this is really tough to like narrow down the perfect list of this. But my advice would be, if write every joke, without any cursing or swear words in it. That would be the first thing I would say. Don't have a punchline hinge on a word because of its shock value, you know? And then I think write like if you're someone who's, find the person that you are most like intimidated or like want their respect, and write like you're just performing it for them.
Okay.
Write like, oh God, if this person heard me say this, I would be really embarrassed. Then write it like that. I also, for me, I try to write everything from my angle. So I don't really do anything political either, because I don't believe anyone cares what I have to say about politics, sex, stuff like that, you know? And so I think it's more relatable. The stuff I feel that's more relatable is sometimes cleaner stuff too, you know? So no cursing, obviously. If you can, I also think if you can take away topics, like I'm not going to talk about sex, I'm not going to talk about, you know, really graphic things, then you have to go and find these things that are not as sort of, for lack of a better term, like milled, you know what I mean? Like they're not as plowed, like by the comedy till, I guess. Like everybody that I know has some sort of hookup sex joke, but it's like not a lot of comics have jokes about like them going to a furniture store and buying a sofa bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, but every person in the audience has an experience like that.
Right.
And they can all relate to it. And I think the more relatable and like niche the thing is to what seems to you, the funnier it is, you know, because you know what I love? When people go like after a show, they go, we just did that thing.
Oh, that's great.
We just did. I was telling them we had the same thing happen to us at IKEA. I love that. Because you're like, oh my God, I was able to make this connection, you know, without having to reach for certain things. Now, I know there are a lot of comics like a Jessica who is, she can work clean. She works a lot of clean shows because she's brilliant. She knows how to, but she has a true form of herself that is also more vulnerable and darker and dirtier. But what I think is the important thing is that none of her material hinges on the fact that it's dirty. You could rewrite her material in a clean way and it would still be funny. And I think that's the big thing, is write the material in a way where you don't need to be dirty. And then if you add the dirty stuff in, it just adds another layer to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you do want to access that, because I've been in shows when I first started where like you do some of these like shows in the outskirts of Pittsburgh, Western Pennsylvania, and it's like Hell's Angels, Sons of Anarchy.
Wild West.
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to go and attack those people a little bit. So you sometimes have to be dirtier. Sometimes you have to swear a little bit more. And that's just a tool, that you use in that time. But that's I think if you can write a joke where you don't need a dirty thing to hinge the joke, if you add it in later, it actually probably increases it. That would be my advice.
All right. Yeah, thanks, man.
I would say most advice that I give in stand-up should be taken with the idea that this person also knows nothing.
Sure.
I think most advice in all comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I think you should do this, this, and this. Great. Also, remember that tomorrow all of this could be over for any one of us.
Especially Tim.
Especially Tim.
His house we're
Yeah. We're going to miss you. But yeah.
I think I was thinking with like the first time when you're coming over here, I was like, what the first time we met? But the first time we met was, I think it was at a show at the Cellar on Penn.
Yes.
It was a Don't Tell show that got a little wild, if you recall.
I do recall.
And I remember this because you and I were in the corner there. So we did the show and there was a couple there that got really offended, actually.
Yes.
And I had to escort the guy out. And I don't know if you were already out there in the stairwell or not, but it was just, he was heated.
Yeah,
and
we were in that stairwell. He came back down or something?
Yeah, because he left. His wife wanted to stay to give the comic a little talking to after the show. And I think they both had an entire bottle of wine before the show started. Mm-hmm. But it was one of those things where I guess I was saying, I appreciate you being there for the...
Yeah.
Even if it was just happenstance. But I'm like, okay, I'm glad a little bit of moral support, because this was a very upset guy and I didn't really know what to say. I felt bad for him.
I give so much credit and respect to... this Don't Tell platform, which is insane. That's like,
it's incredible. Yeah.
I think it's going to save a lot of comics and save some of their careers. I know it's been extremely beneficial to me traveling and doing these shows. I mean, I was so fortunate, like, one, to meet you, to when I come home, like, and I'm able to get spots on your shows, to know that the show is going to be good. Like, I have never walked into a Don't Tell show and be like, I hope it's good.
Yeah.
I walk into every Don't Tell comedy show and go, this is going to be good. I'm going to get to work on stuff.
The crowds are great, man. Yeah.
It's incredible. But the amount of work that you have to do, because not only are you a funny comic who has to then perform on the show or host or whatever, you also have to produce it. And you have to be the face of it and the bouncer and the ticket taker. And it's like, you have to wear so many hats, and it's really hard, I think, sometimes for comics to, we could be confrontational on stage, but most comics are not confrontational.
Sure, yeah.
Most comics don't really want to be problem solvers, because we got into this to get out of the HR and the small talk. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of like to be alone and work alone and not have to worry about other people's stuff. So the fact that you have to handle that, and you handled it so well, because that show, by the way, could have completely been derailed, and because of you and the comic on stage at the time, like, it wasn't, and it's unbelievable, because I've been in clubs where the show has been derailed, and they have staff, they have people that get paychecks every week and clock in and clock out. They cannot handle the situation, and you were able to do it by yourself, essentially, a team of one. So I just have a tremendous amount of respect for people like that are running these shows, because it's really hard to be the funny guy on stage or funny girl on stage, and then have to also be the person that kicks somebody out and goes, hey, you're talking too loud, or you need to leave. And they're like, but I know you were just talking. You're funny. You don't care. You're carefree. You just told me for 15 minutes how silly you are. And now you're mad at me. It's like a substitute teacher that like everyone thinks is cool and then has to scream at a student. Right. What happened? So it's amazing to me, like to see stuff like that, because it's so hard and people don't realize it, how hard it is. So, I mean, hats off and hair off to you and what you've done here with the Don't Tell Here, because like in that situation, you don't go to that show being like, I hope that a middle-aged man screams at me in a confined space tonight. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh man, I and you probably don't even think like that could happen just because you're focused on producing the show and having a good show yourself and an all around good show for the audience. But then you're faced with it, And I always say, like, if comics worked at like a bank and faced some of the things that we face in our industry at a bank, we would quit that job. We would go, this is insane that I would work here. I'll go and get another job at another bank. This place should be shut down. Yeah. You know what I mean? But because we're in stand-up comedy, we go, it's just another thing. It's just another night. Yeah. It's okay. Tomorrow I'm doing a thing and we're going to get pizza. So the pizza will be good, right? Yeah. The pizza's not really good. That's fine. I've had better pizza, but I'll have worse pizza. Okay. But it's free. We're going to charge you half price for the pizza. Oh, you could like comics are such like, just like, well, it could always be worse. So,
sure.
Which I think keeps a lot of us in this. You have to have that mentality. But yeah, it's just part of the business. You just grow to be like, oh, this is just something I have to do now.
I think it's like, it could be worse, and it's also has been worse. So you're like, oh, it's at this point, it's like, it's fine. I don't know.
I often do that. I often look back at times where it has been worse and go, well, at least it's not this.
Yeah.
So shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just do it. Because you have been in a situation where you've been like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. And then you did it. And you're like, all right, well, I guess that's my new low. You know what I mean? Like,
totally, yeah.
As long as it's not that bad, it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's and sometimes I do find it. It's like it is like a, I don't know, like it's a way to deal with it, because you're just like, oh man, yeah, you're exactly, like this is the new low,
right?
And it's almost like kind of comforting.
Yeah, it's comforting in the sense of like you survive it. I'm always, this is so crazy that this is how comics have to behave to like keep ourselves like going in this business. But I literally, I've told friends, I go, yeah, this happened and this show got canceled, whatever. But I really do think like the worst thing that could happen would be like if somebody came to my door and like killed me or my dog, and they're like, oh wow, that's a way to like, is that where you're at? Just like, don't die. I'm like, yeah. Like I comfort myself by just going, well, at least you're not dead and your dog isn't dead. Mm-hmm. If the manager of, Chuckle Hut and the Poconos kills my dog, then that'll be the worst thing. I'm quitting comedy. I'm going to lose my mind. But as long as they don't kill me or my dog, it's okay. So, and that's how we have to comfort ourselves. Just being like, this isn't the worst possible thing that could happen to me tonight.
Right.
So then I'm just going to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if people that worked at a Chipotle were embarrassed in the way that sometimes we have been embarrassed, they would go, not only will I never work at this Chipotle again, I'll never work in food service. I'm going to totally rethink my work, right, and what I do for work. And maybe it's time to go back to school. We're just like, that's a bummer. Tomorrow maybe it'll be different. Maybe the 7:00 show will be different tomorrow.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah. Or the worst is when it happens in between shows, when it happens on like a 7, and you go, but I'm sure the 9:45 will be better. like that is just such a comics mentality of like, I'm sure everything in an hour and a half will totally change, reverse course. Yeah. So let's see. We have to do that. We have to comfort. We have to self-soothe. It's
a good therapy term, man. The self-soothing. We need to do that for sure.
Yeah.
So. I think we're close into. Oh, this has been great.
Sweet.
You so this is the Skullet podcast. I started growing the hair as a goof, and But as I'm doing it more and more, I find it as an act of rebellion. You know what I mean?
I love it.
So I'm kind of curious. Do you have any versions of that for yourself, or maybe your friends, your family, whoever, like loved ones, or just whoever, or just like maybe you shouldn't be doing this thing, but you're like, you know what, I gotta do it.
Yeah. Most things, I hate to be told no.
Okay.
And I hate to be told this is crazy that I do this, but like I don't like to be told to be quiet.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'll do to my girlfriend and to my close friends and family is I'll sing or I'll talk loud, kind of like in public, and then they'll be like, "Okay, stop." And then I will, as soon as they tell me to stop, I will be louder.
Wait, what?
And I'm just like, don't tell me to stop this.
Yeah. Okay.
I hate it. I hate to be told shush or quiet and I also don't like my time wasted. So if I'm in a situation where I feel like my time is being wasted, I really rebel. Like I'll keep some names out of this.
Let's do it.
But I have been in multiple situations where like I don't want to go to a party or go to a thing for somebody, and my girlfriend will be like, I just want you to be nice. Please don't be like moody when we're there. I'm like, I won't be. I'll actually be too nice.
Oh.
And I'm like, see, you could have just let me go and like be normal when I'm there, because I'm not a psychopath. I'm not going to go in and like scream at people.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like, I understand this is society. We have rules.
Right.
I'm in somebody's home. I'm going to be respectful. But now you have set the bar. So they'll be like, I'll be like, what's the person do? They print the little letters on napkins at weddings. That's their job. I'm like, okay, got it. And then I will go and talk to this person ad nauseum around other people to get them to tell me about their life, their job, to where I see other people go, I can't believe this is. And what it looks like to what the person talking to me goes is, this is so nice that someone has taken interest in my mundane life.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, you told me to be nice. Not only was I nice, I was so nice to Jeff that he got to tell a story he's never told in his life to people.
Yeah.
How amazing is that? And my girlfriend knows that it's much more sinister.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
It's much more calculated.
Yeah.
I'm trying to really I'm having the time of my life because I'm just sort of like turning the screws. So I don't like to be told don't do things, you know, because I feel like I know I don't. You don't have to tell me. So don't tell me to do it. So as soon as you tell me to do it, I'm gonna it's a game.
Yeah.
We're playing chess, not checkers.
I mean, dude, that's like it's a very fascinating window in your mind, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it though.
Not a lot of people would assume, because like I am pretty easygoing.
Sure.
But I do have a couple things. So like I don't, and I also have like a terrible like temper. So like where like, not in like a violent way or anything, but like in the sense of like, I'll give you an example. We were going to a birthday party and we were running late, and it's for my girlfriend's friend. And I'm like, oh my God, who has a party, whatever, on a Tuesday, whatever time. I'm finding a reason to just be like, I can't believe this person has a party on a Tuesday at night. Don't people know that Tuesdays at night or when whatever happens? You know, it's
right.
So we're on our way and we get a call from somebody at the party and they go, before you get here, can you stop and pick up ice? And I'm like, my girlfriend's like, yeah, no problem. We'll get ice. We'll get some ice. So she hangs up the phone and I go, we're 45 minutes late to this party. They don't have ice? Are they just standing around drinking warm drinks and waiting for us to go just because we're last? We have to bring this thing. And she's like, we'll just get ice. It's no problem. I go, I know we're going to get ice, but it is a problem because in the world of Uber Eats and delivery, and also people have cars, and you've been there for almost an hour and nothing's cold. None of the beverages are cold. Everybody's so lazy that we have to now go get. So like, I'm like, well, this is going to be my whole thing now. when we get there. So we get ice, and I'm like, I have so much ice, and I'm like, who needs it? And like to the point where like we're like running out of room for the ice, and I'm just like, now it's their problem. Now this ice is there. You made it my problem.
Yeah.
I'm now making it your problem.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's my act of defiance. You know, against these things that I feel like really take time from me. And, you know, take things away from me. Take my freedom away.
Dude,
you know?
your freedom away.
Yeah. Take my freedom to just arrive when I want, not have to bring some. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the little things.
That is the little things, man.
I'm not a big like situation. Like I'm not like a big like that. I couldn't care about politics, religion, anything. You know what I mean? Like I have no really like hard stances, and I don't really care if somebody has a hard stance on something big. But when somebody like has a little bit of a difference than me, that's the thing that I hyperfixate on, and I'm like, this is going to become my whole personality for the next 2 hours.
I love watching this too because you see like there's like a light in your eye, you know, just thinking about it.
It's one of the most thrilling and joyful things that I can get in that moment. Someone once told me, they go, they were like, your favorite thing is to be invited to something that you don't want to go to and then complain about having to go. Mm-hmm. And that is up there. Yeah, it's I get a lot of enjoyment out of like those little mini rebellions. Is
right.
What I would call
yeah.
them. You know, like people have mini seizures. These are mini rebellions, you know, in just my own little life. Yeah. And like the bubble of society. Nothing big. I'm not gonna make a sign. I'm never gonna make a sign. You're never gonna see me march for anything. You're never gonna see me on the news with something on a picket. Not gonna happen. But I will find the most boring person at a party and put them in front of an appetizer table and make it basically an area that nobody wants to go to anymore.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. Or I'll make a deal of like, oh, we brought this, but you didn't bring it. Oh, okay. I just thought you brought something because you asked us to bring something. You know what I mean? Like, and twist the screws.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
No,
that's the most fun thing I do.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
No,
Now, who's the real villain? You know what I mean?
Bro, I don't know, man. You sometimes
tables have turned.
Tables have turned. Yeah, this is your skulletry, dude, in motion, you know?
Exactly. The next time you see me, I'm going to be unrecognizable. I am going to be like, wow, he really went like full Joker, you know? Like he's just going to people's weddings and parties and birthdays and ruining them.
Wow.
You know, silently.
Yeah.
Silently just, just, you know. But it's the perfect crime. It's the perfect crime. Because it's like somebody that laughs too loud at a comedy show. Yeah. They go, you're almost laughing to the point where it's a heckle. But they go, I'm laughing. I'm doing what you want me to do. It's similar to that. We're like, right. I'm being jovial. I'm being engaging. I'm being charming. But it's with aggression. Yeah. It's pointed.
Right.
You know? So people go, often people will be like, Collin was great. He was to my girlfriend. She was so nice. And she was like, yes. But she knows the underlying feeling is I'm actually in my head like attacking this person.
I mean, dude, I gotta be honest, I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared, but I'm so glad to uncover this. This is like a reveal. Like I'm like, this is I don't know how to feel, but this is great. I feel like I know you so much better now.
Yeah, you just got to peek into. We might actually have to cut all this because people will know it now.
Dude, it's gonna be like Tim's gonna be editing this like you know in his last breath, and it's just all gonna be wiped somehow. Yeah. You figured out a way to do it.
Yeah, he's like, I could not believe that this psychopath gets on stage and talks about fruit roll-ups. I can't believe that a person with this much hatred for
humanity,
it's social gatherings, gets on stage and goes, "How we doing tonight?" You know, it doesn't snap. That's how I keep it together.
Dude, this is amazing, man. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast, dude.
Thank you. This was good for me.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, name your demons kind of thing. This was very helpful. Thank you.
Of course, man. And where can people follow you, man?
You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. It's all Collin_comedy. YouTube. I've got some stuff out. I've got a Don't Tell set out now that you can find. I've got a dry bar sort of mini special. It's about 25 minutes called Cake for Breakfast. That if you want to watch that. And then I have my full special on my YouTube called Hello, It's Me. So it's like 7 minutes, 25 minutes, and 45 minutes. And then, of course, just constant 60-second videos of me pruning down my hardest work to 60 seconds in captions.
Yeah.
You know? So it's something for everybody. If you're just driving to work and you're scrolling, there'll be a joke there for you. If you have about 7 minutes until your order's ready at a Starbucks, watch the Don't Tell. Maybe you're on your lunch break at work, at the office, put on the dry bar. You're at home and you have literally nothing better to do. Then you watch the full special.
That's nice.
We're trying to just find little windows into people's downtime.
It's a Collin for every season.
Yeah, a Collin for every season. A Collin for every moment of your life that you're just trying to get back. You know, there's a Collin for that.
Oh, absolutely. And make sure that don't waste this fucking guy's time. Seriously.
Do not waste my time. Don't do it. I'll leave you with this. I swear I won't ramble anymore. But now, like when my girlfriend goes, I just told her this the other day. She goes, "You're gonna meet my friend, Mark." She would be like, "He's really funny. He's really whatever." And I tell her, I go, "Don't even tell me. Just say Mark. Because if you tell me that this person is really funny or really interesting or really nice, I am going to make it my mission to prove you wrong." So I go, now what she this is insane. Now what she tells me about a friend of meeting. I literally just told this. She goes, "You're gonna meet." We went to a wedding. She goes, "You're gonna meet Brittany and her husband, Mark, and and I go, "Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Just let me know their names. That will be safest. If I just know their names and I make my own judgments about them, you know." And so that's where we're at. So don't tell me anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't tell comedy.
Don't tell comedy.
Don't tell Collin anything about your personal life, or he will use it. He will weaponize it against you at a function. Mm-hmm. I'm exhausted,
dude. I think this has been a great episode. I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. This has been the Skullet Podcast, you guys. Remember, not all growth is good. Just keep in the back of your head.
Oh yeah.